Hello, I'm Colleen Gallagher, CEO at OnWrd and UpWrd, and you're listening to the Association Insights podcast, where each week we interview association leaders from across the country to hear how they're trying new things, taking big risks, and delivering value for their members. We'll explore the realities of what it means to work in and with associations and bring you the insights and inspiration you need to advance your career and make big changes at your association. Let's get started.
Welcome back to the Association Insights podcast. I'm your host, Colleen Gallagher, and I'm so glad you're joining us today. If you've been a longtime listener, you may remember today's guest from our advocacy series last year. I'm thrilled to welcome back Louise St. Germain, but this time in a new capacity. Louise was recently named Interim Executive Director of the International Society on Thrombosis and Haemostasis, stepping into the organization's top leadership role during an important period of transition. She brings more than 2 decades of experience in global health communications, advocacy, crisis response, and stakeholder engagement, including over a dozen years in senior leadership at the ISTH. Throughout her career, she has built and led high-performing teams, elevated global awareness campaigns like World Thrombosis Day, and strengthened partnerships across the healthcare ecosystem. Now she's guiding an international association of 7,500 members across 120 countries through executive succession, while simultaneously building momentum for the 2026 Congress in Paris. Today's conversation is about leadership transition done thoughtfully, scaling global impact, and what it really takes to maintain stability and momentum when organizations enter a new chapter. Louise, welcome back to the podcast and congrats on your new role. I'm so happy to have you here.
Thank you so much. I'm very delighted to be here again.
Great. Well, you stepped into this interim executive director role after, really more than a decade in senior leadership there. How's your perspective shifted in this first stretch?
Yeah, no, it's been an exciting time, definitely over the last couple of months. For probably 22 to 23 years, I've spent time in rooms as, the communicator, the strategist, the person making everybody else look good. And I loved every minute of it. I love it always. But when I stepped into this interim executive director role, something clicked that I didn't really expect. And that was that really every moment, every relationship, every mentor, it was all leading me here. And it was like that moment where it just all sank in and you got to kind of be in that moment and it's a privilege and it's a gift. Tom Reiser, our previous executive director, really built something wonderful at the ISTH and definitely built something worth protecting. Our amazing culture where people care, where the mission just isn't a tagline. And, I'm so grateful for everything that I learned from him and watching him lead. But when I stepped into this role, my first thought wasn't, what do I need to prove? It was, how do I be worthy of what's already been built here and be a good steward for that? And that's been huge for me. That's the shift. I stopped asking how we serve our members and started asking how we serve the people that serve our members. And I think that that's important. And for anyone who knows me, they know that when I care about something, I go all in. And the organization, the people, the leadership, I'm all in. So I'm happy to be here during this moment.
That's so fantastic to hear. And I think anyone who approaches leadership with that mentality of, how can I be worthy? How can I do this? You already know they're a step ahead. And so I think that's a tremendous way to look at it. I would love to know what feels most different for you, what's most familiar, how are you approaching that?
No, that's a great question. And, having been in the industry for such a long time and with ISTH for 13 years now, I think what feels familiar is the mission critical. Thrombosis is near and dear to my heart. My dad passed away at a very young age of a massive heart attack. And so at a very young age, I realized how important it was to build awareness, to learn about, the risk factors, signs and symptoms. And so what feels familiar, it's the mission, it's the work that we're doing, it's the relationships, it's the staff, it's the leaders, it's our sponsors and supporters. It's all of those things, I think, that really feel familiar. What feels different is the altitude. So when I say altitude, it's the altitude of decision making. In my previous role, I was deeply embedded in execution. So, sending out the press releases and making sure social media and looking at outcomes and strategy and different things like that, running campaigns. But now I'm thinking about the organization systematically. And I think that's really important. That's where, where we have to look at what works, what doesn't work, what are the barriers, what are in people's way, and really, having those deep, thoughtful conversations where you're learning about all of those different things with staff members, and you're not only working with them from a team perspective, but you're really working with them to grow and move the needle forward, if that makes sense.
Oh, it totally does. And the first thing you said resonated so much with me because it's the mission and the people, and that's what it all comes back to for associations. So I feel that deeply.
It is. It's important. And I've always been team first. I think it's important to meet people where they are and have those thoughtful conversations with them. I'm an empathetic person and leader. And so, I think during moments of transition, that is key. It's to meet people where they are and provide them with the stability, the transparency, the communication, all those things. They matter so much. And I know, years ago in my career, you really look to directors and leaders for guidance and support. And it's important for that person to be there to listen. And there's this quote that I like. I'm not sure who said this quote, but the old model of leadership was about having all the answers, but the new model is about asking better questions. And I think that is so essential. We don't have to know everything. And it's important to realize that. But if we surround ourselves with the right people and we're asking the right questions, we're going to go further.
That's so good. I love that quote. I haven't heard that one before, but I think it's just perfect because that's it. You have to be willing to see your blind spots, especially things are just moving too quickly today. The world is changing too fast. There's too much going on. If you're just, oh, I'm the only one, I know it, you're not going to succeed. So yeah.
Absolutely. It's so important.
Yeah, absolutely. One thing being in the association world for a long time now, I've seen where these transitions, it can be really destabilizing if it's not very purposefully and thoughtfully carried out and handled. So what's been most important for you in maintaining that continuity and that momentum throughout this?
Yeah, that's a great question. For me, it's transparency and communication. Those go hand in hand, full stop. Transparency and communication. People don't fear change nearly as much as they fear uncertainty. And when people feel uncertain, I mean, you think about in your life, the times that you felt, uncertain, it's scary. It can feel scary. And so it's important to have that transparency. Again, meeting people where they are, having those frequent communication, one-on-ones, not just all staff meetings, but really one-on-ones with all people across the organization, and be visible, accessible, and honest. I think those are the most important things, in going through a period of transition. I mean, the other thing just to throw out there is I also believe that continuity lives in the people and not the org chart.
Yes.
So often during transitions, you look at the org chart and who is under what director and what are the staff doing. But I think it really lives with people. And so going away from the org chart and really, working with your staff and meeting with them where they are, that's key.
Yeah, that's such a great take on it too. Taking on this role and also continuing to oversee membership, marketing, external relations, you touched on communications and transparency right there. So I'd love to know what you think, like how has your background in comms been able to help shape how you're approaching this moment?
Yeah, so communications has taught me everything is a message. I think it's not just what you say, but what you do, how you show up, what you prioritize. The lens, has to be invaluable. In moments of organizational transition, I think people are always reading the room. They're constantly looking around. They're looking for signals. Is this safe? Do our leaders know what they're doing? I think that's a question that I think we've all asked occasionally. Does anyone care about us? And so my communication background means that I'm very attuned to those undercurrents. I'm very aware. I'm used to asking those questions. And I think that's important. It's thinking through the message. It's also storytelling. It's reinforcing the power of storytelling. That's key. When staff and members understand the why behind decisions, they become partners in the work rather than passengers. And I think partners is the most important role, is that partnership, that collaboration, and not just being a passenger, but actually feeling like you can affect change.
Right. I mean, that empowerment goes really far. So
it does. I mean, I always think back to I'm a mother, I have children. And when you empower your child and you're like, you can go out there, you can do well on your math test. I know you can. You speak it into, him, and he goes to school and he comes home and he's so excited. And it's like, if you speak these things, if you meet people where they are, if you're having these conversations, these lessons that we see in our daily lives, we do the same with work, right? And so when you say, hey, you did a great job, I really enjoyed that article or X, Y, and Z. I mean, I think that they feel good. And that storytelling, that aspect of storytelling is key.
It makes a big difference for sure. I had to take a breath during that intro when I was talking about the 7,500 members, 120 countries. I mean, that is a truly global scale. A lot of associations talk about being global, but 120 countries is wild. So how do you think about leading through transition when you've got multicultural, multi-stakeholder environment? I mean, expectations and needs can really vary across all of that.
Yeah, I think it's two things. I think with a lot of humility and a lot of curiosity. I think lifelong curiosity is key. And you can't lead a truly global organization by assuming your frame of reference is universal. That's super key. You can't just assume that, what trust looks like to you might be different for someone else. What collaboration looks like to somebody might look different for someone in another country. What engagement means, all of those things can enormously vary, I think, across cultures, across countries, all around the world. And I think that the best global leaders are really the ones who are genuinely interested in those differences rather than trying to smooth them over. And so understanding them, respecting them, being curious about the things you don't know, all of those are key. And definitely for ISTH, that collaboration around the world, it has been truly a gift. That's the best way to put it. It has been a gift in my career to have the opportunity to work with people in so many different places around the world, and truly a privilege. And especially during transition, I think it's, important. Again, the more listening, the being more present, the being more curious, the, checking in with people, whether it is staff or really our members around the world. And I think going to Paris in July for our Congress, it's going to be a great touch point for us to really talk about the momentum that we have right now and all of the exciting things that are taking place at the ISTH. So I look forward to that. But definitely a lot of humility, a lot of curiosity.
Curiosity always wins.
It does. Yes.
You talk about thinking about from the parent perspective. My 4-year-old won the Curious Cat Award last year. And so I'm like, okay, but maybe we could turn the questions down a little.
No, kids ask the best questions.
They really do. They know how to get in there. So you mentioned the Congress coming up in Paris. So talk to me about what goes into scaling this global meeting and really ensuring that you're also advancing the organization's long-term strategy too, not just the event.
Yeah, no, it's crazy to think that it'll be my 13th meeting. I think my first meeting was in 2013 in Amsterdam. So it's exciting to be back in Europe. Paris is genuinely just an exciting place to go, right? It's a world-class stage, but definitely a world-class stage for science and innovation in thrombosis and haemostasis, which is our area. And we're approaching it as much more than just a conference, but a platform for where the field is going. There's so many interesting advancements. There's so much interesting science happening, and it truly is a platform for that. The logistics, as you can imagine, are enormous. Programming, sponsorship, international travel, scientific abstract management. Think about all of these aspects. And at the ISTH, the team, the staff are all in. They're doing amazing work, and they're working on all of these different aspects of the Congress. And really, our abstract numbers just came in for the final total, and it's the highest number we've had in the last 10 years.
Wow.
For the Paris meeting. So just a note there, but we're exciting. Seeing those numbers and hearing the excitement from our community, it's great.
Yeah.
The work that I'm most proud of is integrating our advocacy work and our scientific agenda, both very, very important. And we want attendees leaving Paris not just energized by the science, but activated, really activated and as advocates and collaborators and leaders in their own communities all around the world. And so I think that's really the gift that the ISTH Congress is each year. And none of this happens without an exceptional team at the ISTH, whom I'm so proud of, and especially as we're getting closer every day.
Yeah, that's exciting. I can't wait to hear how it goes. What an event. I mean, that's just incredible.
It is. I know. We're hoping for thousands of people. So typically our meetings are around 35,000 or 3,500 to 4,000, and excited to see, how much bigger with the abstract numbers that Paris will be this year.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, you mentioned earlier about having this kind of front row seat to the leadership as being a part of the senior team for years. So I'm curious what advice you would offer associations that are planning executive succession. I feel like it's a big topic right now, especially when transition involves someone stepping up from within.
Right. No, I think you could do a whole show just on that.
Right.
Succession planning, because these are important conversations. They can be scary for some people to have those honest conversations about succession, but it is so key. So I would say my advice is plan earlier than you think you ever need to. Plan early, plan often, revisit the plans, have these thoughtful conversations with your staff. Succession is not a crisis response. It's a strategic responsibility. So you can't look at, it's really important not to look at succession as a crisis, but really a strategic responsibility for all of the individuals in leadership positions and manager positions. Boards and senior leaders should be investing in leadership development continuously so that they're not scrambling when transition arrives. Transition is inevitable. Change is inevitable. It's how you plan for it and how you work with people through it. It shouldn't just happen to someone. It should be happening in conjunction with and really working together. For someone stepping up from within, I think the advice I give is bring your institutional knowledge with you, but don't be captured by it.
Yes.
The individual has earned their credibility and trust by being part of the team, and that's huge. That's an asset. But you also have to be willing to look at the organization with fresh eyes, and that can be difficult when you've been somewhere for so long. To really take that step back and say, okay, I'm now looking at this through a different lens. I have to ask harder questions than maybe I've never asked before. I need to have conversations with people and teams that maybe I haven't had before. And so it's really thinking through it thoughtfully, intentionally. I think being intentional through all your communications is key. And then also leaning into mentorship. Tom was a huge mentor of mine over the years, a phenomenal executive director, and really leaning into that membership, both giving it, but also seeking it out and finding your peers or finding colleagues that have been in this, situation or have been in this moment. And, I think that's really key. I've been incredibly fortunate to have mentors who have helped me grow throughout my life, really. And I try to pay that forward every day. I think it's important as women, it's important as professionals to pay that forward. And organizations that build cultures of mentorship create their own leadership pipelines. And I think that is key, is to build your own pipeline within of leaders, of, people that can step into these roles and are curious about stepping into these roles. And I think that's the most sustainable succession plan there is.
Yeah. So. I love that. I love the thought of continuing to pay it forward. I think that's one of the most important things we can do as leaders is how are we helping the next generation become leaders too?
Absolutely. I mean, and you see this, with kids, and you see this, with young adults coming into the workforce, and you see it when it clicks. I love that spark. Like when somebody's learned something for the first time, or they've thought about something differently, or you've given them some bit of feedback that they've taken and thought about it and brought back to you. Those are the moments that I think matter.
Yeah, 100%. I want to build on this promoting from within piece. And we've talked about this a little bit, but you've got this deep experience in crisis comms and in advocacy communications. How do you think those skills have translated to executive leadership, especially as we're, you're talking about these moments of change, uncertainty for staff that you talked about, things like that?
Yeah, I think clarity under pressure. I think my experience, having worked in crisis communications and different types of interpersonal, all the different types of communication, is really clarity under pressure, knowing what you know, being honest about what you don't, because you don't have to know everything. So being really honest about what you don't and communicating with enough calm and consistency that people can stay oriented even when the situation feels a little uncertain or turbulent. I think that is executive leadership during transition.
Yeah.
And I think advocacy has taught me to look deeply, has really taught me that you have to deeply understand your audience before you can move them. So knowing your audience, it kind of goes back to college 101, know your audience, know who you're speaking with, not just what they think, but what they care about, what they fear, what they need, how can you address those things? All very, very important kind of things and conversations to have. I think both skills share a foundation. Trust is key, and building trust is important. So yeah, I think, throughout my background and the skills that I have during a transitional period in this interim role, it's super exciting. It's a privilege, but it's an opportunity to move the needle and build momentum and really set the stage for the next step for the society.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know we joke sometimes about things being 101 or basics or fundamentals, but without them, it falls apart, right?
It does. Yeah, no, it's key. It's really important.
Yeah. Well, as you look ahead to the year ahead, what are you most excited about? What do you hope the, association leaders listening in can take away from your experience too?
I work with a phenomenal team at the ISTH. I think all of the staff, having the opportunity to learn from them, the volunteer leadership, our council, our dedicated volunteers, always exciting to see them, to learn from them, to grow. I've learned new things every single day in this role. I think it's important to be open to learning. And again, it goes back to the curiosity, right? The curiosity is important. But I think I'm most excited about the momentum I'm seeing. I'm seeing a lot of excitement for the Paris Congress. The following year after Paris, we go to Vancouver. I'm seeing a lot of momentum and really curious, important conversations with sponsors and supporters about, how can we work better together? How can we collaborate more? How can we have a more significant impact and bringing others along with us on this journey? I think that's really, really exciting. The other things I really enjoy working with the World Health Organization, having the opportunity to affect change there and be part of these important conversations that are happening. World Thrombosis Day, it's going into, our 13th year for World Thrombosis Day. And, we just keep breaking records and impressions and building momentum. But what that actually means to me is, a life saved. A patient that's so scared going in saying, I have leg pain, but maybe they've heard, about DVT and they know what to ask their doctor, being able to really impact people's lives. I think that is very exciting and continues to be exciting. I see World Thrombosis Day as really this humanitarian opportunity to have these important conversations with patients. I think the thing that I'm most excited about, you mentioned association leaders, and I think it's important to share that transitions don't have to be destabilizing. They don't have to be. It doesn't have to be chaos. It doesn't have to be chaotic. And it's so important, I think, when you're able to have those conversations and plan ahead, that's super key. But I think, that's an important thing to mention too.
Yeah, I love that. This has been so great, Louise. I feel like I've scribbled down a million notes of need to remember this. So I'm going to go back and listen to it. There's just so much good insight in here. So I really appreciate it. Before we let you go, though, we like to end all of our podcasts with some just for fun questions, and we've changed them up from last year. So we've got some new ones for you. Our first one, what's one small thing that brings you joy lately?
So probably my dogs. I have 2 German short-haired pointer dogs that are very, very big personalities. They actually bring me so much joy, especially when it's snowing outside and they lunge off the back deck into the snow and disappear. They bring me joy every single day.
I love that so much. It's so funny because I have a tiny little wiener dog here who will not step foot in the snow unless I carry him out and place him down. So
He'll really disappear, won't he?
he sure would, yes.
I usually see my dog's like ears just above the
Yes.
snowbank, and it's adorable. Like I take way too many pictures. I
Oh,
think
I
I
love
take
that.
more pictures of my dogs than my kids.
That's great. Okay, what are you currently obsessed with? Be it a book, show, hobby, idea, you name it.
Gosh, what am I currently obsessed with? I mean, I just love learning. So, I mean, I even whether it's TikTok or LinkedIn learning, or, I love listening to different podcasts. I recently learned all about kind of Trader Joe's and what made Trader Joe's a unique story, and really the background of Trader Joe's. And it made me really think a lot about transition and about how you create a niche for your organization, how you create a place for yourself. And I thought that was really insightful. So I definitely would recommend taking a look at that. I always love Netflix too. So I'm always watching something new on Netflix.
I love that. I think I've listened to that same Trader Joe's thing you're talking about because that was fascinating, their whole backstory and
It
whatnot.
is.
So,
It is. I know. It's inspiring. And
right?
it's like, oh, could ISTH be kind of the Trader Joe's of the, bleeding and clotting community?
Yes,
So
I
I
love
really
it.
like that.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. Okay, what's your ideal comfort food?
Mashed potatoes, and this is very New England, but butternut squash. So
Very
mashed
New England.
butternut squash with brown sugar, so good.
Love it. Okay, last one. What's a travel moment that still makes you smile when you think about it?
Oh goodness, a travel moment that makes me smile. I think I was on a pretty turbulent flight from Vancouver back to Boston, and one of the flight attendants was the nicest gentleman, so nice. And he could tell I was a little nervous. And so after we all sat down in our seats, I was like sandwiched in between like two other people up against the window. And apparently there was a row further up that was completely open. And he could tell I was, obviously a little nervous. And he said, "Ma'am, would you like to come up here?" And he actually gave me a whole row to myself. And
That's
he
awesome.
checked on me the entire time. And I had to write a really positive. I mean, he was great, and so I felt like he was in the right place at the right time, and I was so thankful for him. So
I love that so much. I love the positive travel stories. I feel like you always hear the negative, so it's so nice to
yeah,
hear like when someone goes out of their way to be kind or helpful and
he's so nice. Yeah, and he was Boston. He's from the Boston area, and so it was good.
that's
He was like, "We're going to get you home," and that's all I wanted to
I
know.
love that.
Right.
Awesome. Well, Louise, thank you again. This was incredible. And I just loved having you on and learning from you and hearing all about your story.
Thank you so much. I appreciate your time.
That's a wrap for today's episode. The Association Insights podcast, previously known as the Association 100 podcast, is a production of OnWrd and UpWrd Marketing and Communications, where our mission is to make associations and nonprofits the go-to source in their industries through earned media and thought leadership. This podcast is an extension of our newsletter, a bi-monthly collection of best practices, top trends, helpful ideas, and smart strategies delivered straight to your inbox. Have you undertaken a big change at your association? Or do you have some words of wisdom from the trenches of association life? We want to hear from you, and so do our listeners. Drop us a note at info@onwardupwrd.com. That's info@onwrdupwrd.com. Be sure to subscribe, give us a 5-star review, and share with your friends and colleagues. We're available anywhere podcasts are found. Come back next week for more association insights and inspiration. Thanks for tuning in.